Hello, everyone. Welcome back to REIMAGINE 2020 V5. This is our fifth edition of our conference, and we're in our holiday theme. That's why I'm dressed like this. I'm Roshan Mirajkar, one of your hosts for this event, and I'm so excited to be joined here by Nischal Shetty, the CEO of WazirX. Nischal, thank you so much for joining us here today. Let's just start by telling everyone a little bit about your background and how has these virtual times been for you? Any positives and minuses, or how's it been for you and your team in general?
Sure. First of all, I think thanks a lot for inviting me on the show, Roshan. Pleasure to be here. And a bit about me, I'm the founder and CEO of WazirX. We are India's largest cryptocurrency exchange. We launched in 2018. And there's a lot of story around that we can talk during the show. As far as the virtual world, I think for cryptocurrencies in general, the virtual world has played out really well. Especially here in India, where we had like an extended lockdown of, I think 3 months. We saw a lot of people turning to the world of cryptocurrencies, trying to understand what cryptocurrencies are. And when we started talking to these people who were signing up during the lockdown, we realized that it was a combination of, I would say, a few factors. The first one being a lot of people lost their jobs. And when they lost their job, they wanted to find out how to, make some money online. And crypto happened to be one of those areas that they could go into. And, surprising when we think about making money online, we just think about investment. But some of the fascinating things I realized that people could do in this crypto ecosystem was there were some people becoming influencers. So it's not just about trading and making money, but it's also about becoming an influencer or an educator. Or there were people who wanted to help their friends invest in crypto. So a lot of these new I would say, job descriptions emerged online for these people who have lost their jobs in the offline world. So that was a great thing. The other was a lot of people did not lose jobs, but they could not actively go to work. They had to sit at home and had a lot of free time on their hands. So they started signing up again on our exchange. So I think the virtual world has worked out very well for the crypto ecosystem in India. It has grown tremendously in the last 6 months.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear, and I would agree that it's changed the work dynamic definitely. And I think the crypto blockchain industry is interesting because I would say it's sort of been remote first from the beginning. Obviously everything dealing with blockchains and crypto is virtual, but one thing I would say is even me, how I started to learn and get into the space was a strong sense of community meetups, presentations, a lot of education going on. So it's been interesting to see that transition, happening virtually. I think, you've told your story. A lot of people are interested in your specific story of how did you build, India's largest cryptocurrency exchange amidst all the regulatory scrutiny. And I think there's a large gap of education, maybe in a place like India, where people, don't know whether to follow the law or whether to follow their interests. Can you kind of get into a little bit of your story of why did you choose to be in India and build it there? A lot of crypto companies have chosen to go to places like Malta, kind of run away from the regulatory scrutiny, but I think you chose to be there. And can you talk a little bit about your journey and why you did this?
Sure. I think the first important thing is to let's tackle the whole confusion about crypto being legal or illegal in India. Uh, so if you look at the crypto regulatory environment in India, it's not illegal to trade in crypto or to hold crypto. The only problem that we faced the last 2 years was the central bank in India did not allow crypto exchanges to have bank accounts. So what that meant was we could not give you a fiat on ramp or a fiat on off ramp. And the way we tackled it, while you're right, a few companies either shut down or they left the country, they went out. We said if it's not illegal to trade in cryptocurrencies or hold them, we should find an alternative way for people to onboard to crypto, or if they wanted to exit, they could get out of crypto as well. And we built a peer-to-peer system where without having a bank account in the country, we could still facilitate the buying and selling of crypto with fiat. And that worked beautifully. We were the first in the country to launch it. And that got us like the first wave of people signing up on our platform. And the surprising thing is this whole, the banking ban in India came about in about 3 weeks after our launch. So when we were launching, we were not aware of it. And it was just 3 weeks into our launch. We were very new. You can understand what a 3-week-old company looks like. You're just putting things in order, and then you get this bomb dropped off all of a sudden that you won't have a bank account anymore. So I would say we did not have much of a choice. We were at ground zero. You don't go below what you are when you start out. So I think that helped us motivate ourselves, saying the worst. We start with the worst. We start with zero. So let's try to navigate this and build something around the hostile banking environment that we had. So yeah, so we built P2P. That gave us the boost. A, a step before we built P2P, one of the other important things that we built is, so we were not the first exchange in India. In fact, we were not even the second. I think we were probably the 10th or the 15th exchange in India, because I'm sure we all know that 2017 was the year when everyone built an exchange. And we launched in 2018, where the bear market was just about to begin. So others were shutting down their exchanges. We were starting out. But what we did is we launched India's first crypto, like a utility token backed by an exchange, which was WRX. And we gave it away to our users, our early adopters. So that gave us massive virality, because for the first time in India, an exchange backed token was being distributed to the early adopters. So that was like the first wave of users that we got. And yeah, I think after that, the second wave happened in the peer-to-peer system that we built. And eventually, the third wave was when the banking ban was lifted this year in March, which gave us a tremendous boost in our user signups, because we stuck around for a long time. And and a lot of things were done in this 2-year period where the banking ban existed. One of the highlights of what we did was we started a campaign called India Wants Crypto. And the idea was, every day, let's tweet about crypto, and let's spread the news and the information, the right information. And I did this because what was happening is, I saw that a lot of work was being done behind the scene for regulation, but nothing was done in the public domain. In the sense, people were not aware of what work was being done, and people also had a lot of misconceptions about crypto in India. In 2017, for example, if you ask people what crypto is to them, either they are people who understand crypto, so they'll tell you that what crypto is, or they do not understand, and they'll tell you crypto is a scam or a Ponzi scheme. It was just zeros and ones. And I knew that educating people will get them in the right direction, even if they don't invest. So that was the reason of starting the campaign. And we still continue that campaign even today, where I tweet every day. It's been over 2 years now. And every day I tweet with the day number, and I talk about something about crypto, and people retweet it, people share it. So that's that information going out. And I think it's done an amazing work of educating people. It's okay if you don't invest, but you should be aware about what crypto is and what the ecosystem is. Because when you don't know something, you quickly dismiss it as a scam. It's always too good to be true. When people hear that there's a cryptocurrency you can buy, and it grows 10x, so nobody wants to believe it, because it's just too good to be true. So I think education is something that I've taken up actively in the country, and that's helped a lot.
Yeah, I've seen some of your tweets in the past. I didn't know you tweet every day, but yeah, that's a great initiative, and I think that kind of outlines your tenacity and rigor to keep on going in an ecosystem that's still tough compared to other environments around the world. In the U.S., the laws are a bit more clear, and like I mentioned before, in other parts of the world, they're kind of crypto safe havens per se. You can just migrate there and start a company. But I think what I want to focus on when we're talking here is a place like India. If you see the penetration of crypto just globally, and then you compare it to a country like India, that's getting very digitally native, even compared to a lot of first world countries. I think there's a lot of theories surrounding that, like a cashless society. So I think it's really important to focus on the market potential. But first, I want to ask you, because you got into a lot of these educational aspects. I know you're partnering with a lot of ed tech companies in India. So can you sort of talk about why are you partnering with a lot of these ed tech companies? Like, is it more of a university type of relationship? Are you trying to, do you think that there'll be more education dripping down from the top down into universities, or do you think it's just starting from the ground up? Like, now I'm talking about normal everyday people, like the unbanked, quote unquote. But it's not that just because you have a bank account doesn't mean you're powerless. There's other alternatives. So can you sort of, from your perspective, maybe tell a little story there for our viewers out there that maybe they've never been to India and they don't really understand like what unbanked means? I think it has a really negative connotation when it's not really the case.
Yeah, see, I think first let's tackle the whole education aspect. What we're trying to do is, like I said, the whole idea about, see, there are various ways in which people get into crypto, and there are various reasons. Like for me, I got into crypto because I was excited about the whole decentralized ecosystem and the whole technology behind it. It's amazing. I'm a software developer by profession. I used to code, and I think that fascinated me. But for a lot of other people, they have their own reasons. It can be from the point of view of accessibility, something as simple as accessibility. Now, when we talk about the unbanked, for example, in the traditional banking system, it takes the presence of a bank near you, which means that there has to be physical infrastructure set up in an area near you. Versus crypto, you just need the internet, nothing else. And if you look at the rate at which internet is penetrating in India, it surpasses the rate at which new banks are being created in different locations around the country. So yeah, I think the idea that the unbanked can be banked is a good idea, but I think it's probably a little ahead of time, because even if I can get a crypto, I can create a crypto wallet, get some crypto. What do I do with that today in the country? It's not solved. So I think maybe it's a little too early, the unbanked part. But what's the right direction to go today is we have a lot of young Indians in the country who look at and who also have disposable incomes, and they want to invest in the right kind of opportunities. And I say this often to a lot of people that our generation has missed the early bus in, let's take, for example, real estate. It's really expensive today. None of us youngsters dream about being early investors in real estate. That time is gone. It's the same with gold. That time is gone. But we can be the early movers in technology. And this is where cryptocurrencies come into effect. We can be those early movers in this industry. And that motivates a lot of youngsters to be early and understand what crypto is, because not everyone gets it today. So, learn as soon as possible. And this is true about those who learned about the internet in the early days. If you are early to the internet, take, for example, I know people who just simply bought domain names in the early days of the internet. And then they made a lot of money later just selling those domain names. Why? Because they were earlier than their peers. So I think the same situation I see for Indians right now in crypto. And, I want to spread this information. And the best way to spread that, I can do that alone versus partnering with as many educational startups as possible. And we do that in two ways. One is what you were talking about, the educational approach, which is we tie up with universities in the country. And there what we are doing is we are sort of running webinars, like a Crypto 101 webinar, where we can invite students from the universities, and they can just get an understanding of crypto so that they are free to then explore. The second is hardcore educational programs of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you want, where you enroll yourself and you go through a proper course. So there are these two kind of approaches that we've taken, and it seems to be working well right now.
Yeah, and that's something I'm very familiar with in terms of educating and partnering with universities. At MouseBelt, we have a university arm, and we've continued to do that. So it's really exciting to hear you say that, because I think that a lot of the interest, like you're mentioning, and the opportunity, it is with the more so the younger generation that hasn't had those opportunities. It's really exciting to, the way you're describing everything that you're doing, that you're doing all the work in India itself, because I think just in general, what happens sometimes with these newer technologies, there's always an interest to migrate to a new country or outsource a lot of the work. But then what you don't get is these very important elements, which is education and building of that infrastructure. Even if it's not physical, right, you still need an internal champion, someone in the country itself to like how you're a great example, right? You are the example of how you continue to push forward, whether or not the laws and regulations were up to date, and eventually it came around. So I think that's really interesting. I know that since the Binance acquisition, it's been about a full year, I think, and I saw recently that you all are launching a $50 million fund in India. So can you talk a little bit about, where do you see most of those resources going towards? Is it education, or are you looking? Do you think you're going to be trying to fund or accelerate more startups in India itself? What do you think is going to create the most impact that you're sort of looking for from your perspective?
I think our purpose with the fund was just simple. How do we expand the ecosystem, the crypto ecosystem in the country, by providing support that we can? And while capital is one of that, we are also, like I said, openly collaborating and partnering with as many startups as possible. Like the education initiative that we've taken, the idea is, can we support as many crypto educational startups in the country so that they can spread the word about the right information about crypto in India. The other activities that we're doing is like trying to run hackathons in as many events as possible, or colleges in the country. Then we are also we also started scouting for new startups, though then we realized that because the banking ban was lifted just recently, and before the banking ban, entrepreneurs were very reluctant to start up. And I can understand why, because you do not want to start up in a hostile environment. So now I'm beginning to see them, but it's still early days. It's just been 5-6 months since entrepreneurs have started looking into it. So the fund has been slower right now in terms of being able to deploy the capital. But I think what we've started is go lower than that, like to the grassroots level. I've started talking to entrepreneurs, started trying to mentor a few people to see if I can help create a few companies from whoever is enthusiastic about crypto and wants to build in that blockchain or DeFi ecosystem. So we're beginning to see that now. But yeah, it's a slower process because all of a sudden there was nothing, and now you have a regulatory, some clarity, not a lot of clarity, but at least the fact that you have access to banking in the country now if you're going to start up in crypto. So it's going on well, but I think it's going to take catch up pace probably in the next 6 to 12 months once we have enough entrepreneurs trying out, because startups, out of 100, 1 or 2 great ideas emerge. So it's going to take some time, I think, in the country.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think is the largest barrier right now? I know we talked about how education is always a consistent barrier, and that relates to some other things. But, because you took an approach with building more of a P2P exchange, do you think that, we should continue more down that route? Or do you think the issue is more surrounding those on-ramps, right? Like even now I can send you Bitcoin from here to where you're sitting in India. And even if the government bans that, they still cannot stop that transaction. However, it's pretty useless to you if you cannot interchange that in your own local fiat currency. So do you think, do you know about the regulations surrounding that, specifically on ramps? Because if you can't get in and exchange, different currencies, I think that's like a big stifling point, right?
Right. So you can do that now in India. Now you have the on ramp and the off ramp, because we won the case against this whole central bank ban this year in March. You can do that now. So that's opened up the doors for a lot of people in India to easily invest in cryptocurrencies, which is why, like in the last, I think 6 months, we've seen our user signups sort of triple out compared to what it was before the banking ban. Uh, and I think the barrier right now is I would say, the lack of regulatory clarity. But I often tell people and even entrepreneurs who want to start up that it's always innovation comes first and then the regulations follow. It's never going to be the other way around. So, take that as an opportunity to be the early movers, because once regulation comes in, even the large companies will come in. You'll have a lot more competition. So if you are a single founder or a group of 3 to 4 people, I think now is the best time to start up in crypto in India, because you don't have fierce competition from large players because they are waiting for regulatory clarity. You don't need to. You have access to banking now, so you can jump in. So I think uh, the regulatory uncertainty is sort of like a double-edged sword. It's good for you if you are a startup, uh, but there's also some drawback. For example, VC funding is not easy to come by even now, because VCs again want to wait for regulatory clarity. But the good thing is you have this whole DeFi ecosystem growing, where you don't really, maybe you will never need a VC anymore, because there's token economics. If you have great tokens that you can pre-sell, that's even better for you. So I think there are problems, but there are solutions to those problems. It's just that you have to put them together and go ahead. So yeah, I think regulatory clarity is something that's stopping a lot of entrepreneurs, but I keep pushing them that this is the best time right now to start up.
Yeah, the regulatory uncertainty is always there, and I think it has a lot to do with the governments even getting educated themselves, because it's also new technology. I'm glad you touched on DeFi a bit, because what I was going to ask you is, I know you also have some plans with WazirX to develop some DeFi products, and I've seen you all working on some things there. Can you tell us, from that perspective, what is the number one DeFi use case in a place like India? Do you think is the most important? And do you think that uh, what's your kind of perspective on DeFi? There's one camp that says we can use DeFi. It's truly no banks, no KYC, no identities. That's like true decentralized finance. And when I think of that, I think that a lot of those that approach can it can overtake any regulatory uncertainty in the terms of you can't really prosecute or regulate something if you don't have an identity. Or are you on the other side where it's kind of a medium blend approach where you do have some KYC, but you have all the benefits of DeFi? Trying to get a sense from you of what would work in a country like India and also surrounding parts, because I think, again, in a lot of first world countries, the use cases are very different, right? Everyone focuses on interest-bearing products, but I think when you talk about DeFi in other parts of the world, we have to remember that if we're building a world for everyone, if the people in the first world country are just so focused on these interest-bearing products, well, they're getting those interest yields because they're lending to someone. And the answer is you're lending to all these international people who maybe they don't have a bank. But what I'm trying to get at is, do you think that DeFi is actually doing good in a lot of these other countries, or are we just putting that yield and getting that yield from the people that already don't have money? If that makes sense.
See, I think I look at DeFi as being very early right now. It's just I think the adoption that we are seeing today is still from the early movers, and it's not really adoption. I would say it's more at the experimentation level, but somewhere where that the experiment's working now. A few years ago, it was more like, is this really going to work out? And today you can say it is going to work. Now the next step is going to be, how will you make it work? And in a way where anyone in the world can access it and use it. So I really, when I think about it as it is today, I don't really know if regular people are going to start using DeFi products, but I can see a path towards that. And I think the beauty about DeFi is more than the no KYC. See, I think those are very, that will change. It'll depend country to country what laws come in. But I think the beauty of DeFi is, the equal treatment it gives to anyone, anywhere in the world. Because think of the traditional banking system. You pay a different rate of interest because you are in country A, and I pay a different rate of interest because I'm in country B. So our access to capital, our access to financial products is limited by the geography that we exist in. But that's not the case with information. Like the internet made information available to anyone, anywhere in the world. So I see DeFi making financial products available to anyone, anywhere in the world. And I think that's the beauty of DeFi. How you onboard to that, maybe some countries will mandate KYCs before you can access any DeFi ecosystem, where you might have to go via some channels to buy that first crypto. Like, these on-ramps and off-ramps exist for a reason. So maybe that will depend really on countries. But once I have the crypto, and like you said, no one can really stop you from using a crypto the way you want. If you think about it, once you have custody, you can do what you want. I think the magic starts after that. After you have your first crypto, how do you then use that? And the DeFi ecosystem is that great leveler, where anyone, anywhere in the world can get access to the same financial ecosystem. And that, I think, it's crazy. We haven't really seen even 1% of what DeFi is capable of, but it needs to be built out. It's still not completely built out, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. It's still in early stages, and actually, we had a previous conversation. We had a previous conference just on DeFi a couple of months ago, when the whole DeFi craze was happening, and I think a lot of that craze is, yeah, specifically tied to just the yield, because everybody wants to, create more use cases for just holding their crypto. But I agree, the actual clear
But
use case.
I think the yield is a great way to attract those early adopters. You always need a hook to get people onboarded to a product, and the yield has played like a amazing role in attracting people to DeFi. Without that, people would not be talking about DeFi. Now, the fact that DeFi has shown itself. So I think that worked as a great hook for onboarding a ton of people onto this ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. You always need an incentive at the beginning of why someone would want to even test out these new applications or product.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. Yield is a good factor. I know that a lot of your users are probably everyday users. What have you seen can you tell me anything about specific growth you've seen amongst like a specific section, or is it all kind of, I'm kind of asking you, is the growth segregated to only some more urban areas in India, or have you seen like widespread growth everywhere? Because if I'm understanding correctly, if someone just has access to internet, they can be kind of anywhere in India, and you can just onboard them on, and they suddenly have access to a variety of products. And yeah, so that was kind of my question, just kind of gauging the growth that you've seen.
Yeah, no, we've seen people all around the country, from every city, every village, tier 1 cities, tier 2, tier 3 cities, everywhere people have been onboarding. I think a few of the common factors we've seen is the age group between, I think, 22 to 26 is like the largest age group that seems to be onboarding to crypto on our exchange, at least. And but I think cities, yeah, the metros, the top 2 or 3 metros are definitely there. But after that, it's more, it goes to the interior parts of India as well. Because, yeah, exactly this. If you have an internet, does not matter where you are, you can access crypto and you can start investing. You can learn about it. So, yeah, I think the young population is the common factor. But otherwise, there's no single city which outweighs everyone else. It's almost distributed across the country right now.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to get an idea of, seeing if growth is segmented to one specific place or if it's widespread. I mean, it's great to hear that growth is happening everywhere, because I think it's, until you're really there and experiencing it, you don't really see the people who are literally anywhere and they have access to a lot of these products. And I think, if you're in the more traditional finance side of things, this is not always clear to everyone because you're so used to all of the different steps. KYC, or even going into a bank branch, that's what everyone is so used to. But this completely changes the dynamics of how you get onboarded into this entirely new system. Can you talk a little bit more about, what you've done with universities, or where you think that's going? Are the university students and the universities themselves more interested in curriculum development and actually getting people certified, not just in crypto, becoming blockchain developers? We've seen that just in general. Of course, India has a high segment of developers, but specifically blockchain developers. Even me myself, I've noticed that there's a large segment that come from India itself. So just wondering, what you've seen from your side interacting with a lot of these high-ranking universities as well. And I think it's important to note that a lot of the students, from these high-ranking universities, they immigrate sometimes and they come to places like the U.S. And then you see years later that they're the ones leading a lot of these public and private companies in the technology sector, right? So in my mind, that's how I'm kind of thinking about it, that, if you're telling me that you're working on all these initiatives in India with younger students, and they start to learn about these more open source distributed technologies, I think it has a whole drip down effect, whether, you think about it or not. It's just the hard fact that, yeah, there's a lot of Indian people running these public companies in the US and around the world.
Right. See, I think if you think about crypto and India from a student's point of view, students always want to skill themselves in what's going to be like the next large sectors, because that's where they see a lot of employment being generated as well, a lot of opportunities emerging. And blockchain is seen as one of those skill sets that can help you stand apart from the crowd, because it's still very nascent and not everyone knows about it. Take for example, if I'm a software developer, you might have a ton of software developers in India, but there's a very small niche of people who understand blockchain development. And so a lot of students are seeing that as an opportunity for them to stand out from the crowd when they graduate and get in early into a company that can help them hone their skills on blockchain and crypto. So yeah, I think skill development is probably the top thing in their mind if they're from engineering colleges. But there's also students from management colleges like the IIMs in India, where they simply want to be in this industry because they see this as finance 2.0. They just don't want to be in the traditional financial system. They find that boring, and they want to be in this whole new shiny financial ecosystem that is still being built out. So they want to understand crypto from a more from a monetary and a financial point of view, not just a development or technology point of view. So I'm seeing interest from both the technology educational institutes as well as the management institutes. So we've sort of had our webinars in IITs, which are the top tier technical colleges in India, as well as the IIMs, which are the top tier management colleges in India. And the enthusiasm has been the same. They just want to know what this is and how they can get involved. So that's the beauty of, I think, talking about crypto is you get interested even more when you start talking about it with students. You see the excitement in their eyes. They just want to know more. They just can't stop then thinking or talking about cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, I would say even the arbitrage opportunities per se are really great in terms of you have place like India that has a lot of talented developers, and if they can tap into these opportunities like you're saying, they can definitely take advantage. And I think in some cases, it's not just about taking advantage, you're help supporting, in this case, in entire networks, entire products. And it's so different from traditional products and networks in the sense of there's a lot more there's a lot more impact you can create when you're working on these products because they're so widespread and they can touch different regions. What I
and these and a lot of these products are remote, like what we discussed in the beginning. A lot of these projects are being done remotely. So students, I'm seeing a lot of students in India trying to get internship into these remote companies sitting at their home, so that
yeah.
they get exposure. So they're not now, they don't really have to travel to the US to work with a US team. They could just sit in India and work with a team in the US that's working on some blockchain technology. So I think that remote work is also helping them get more exposure to all of these new technologies now.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought up jobs. I was gonna go into that a bit. I was speaking to JP Tiria, who's the CEO of Uphold. Not sure if you're familiar with them, but what he was discussing was he was working with a service that empowers freelancers in India and other parts of the world, and they get paid directly in crypto. So he was talking about creating an entirely new market where these talented people can take advantage of using crypto and it's no fees to them. And so I want to go a little bit into how are the jobs and opportunities in India related specifically to crypto and blockchain, because we talked a lot about the students, and I know you're building your platform out for the general people, but after, let's say, these students are learning, getting educated, maybe even using your platform, I like to always focus on usability in some case, because that's sort of the next step, right? If you can spend it somewhere, or even if it's through another merchant, that's at least powerful, and those things need to keep happening. Can you tell me anything about institutional interest in India, and if you are also interested in that side, or do you think you're going to continue to grow just this, I would say, growth of general people, general users? Where is the most impact do you think you're going to make in maybe the next year or so? Because you've done great work this past year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the next year, we'll continue to focus on retail because that's a large market in India. And as far as institutional is concerned, the problem is again the regulatory clarity. And institutional investors want some clarity before they can get into it. So I think it's going to take some time in India for institutional investors to. I keep talking to them. A lot of people, they keep reaching out to me to understand. And
Mhm.
every time, I know that they just want to understand right now, but they're not getting in. Probably they're also waiting for someone else to get in first, before they can also get into it, or they're waiting for regulation. It's one of the two. But I think my estimate is it might take them a year or two more before they get into this serious, like the US, how you hear about hedge funds getting into crypto. But I think in India it's going to take some time. But until then, there's a large retail market out here with millions of people online. So I think we are going to focus on that, reach out to the masses. My idea is, how do I help people go from being a no coiner to a coiner, because that's where we are. We are the on ramp for them. So we want to make it as easy as possible. Right now, today, if you have all your KYC documents, you can buy your first crypto in under 5 minutes using our platform. Before, it used to take a day or two for everything to get done in India. And we launched, and our objective was, can we make it really fast for people to buy? Because if you remove that barrier to entry, that's when you can get in as many people as possible. So we are making it that entry level smooth for retailers right now, retail users. Eventually, I think the institutions will follow. I like it. This is that market where the retail investors are coming first, and then the institutions are going to follow. I think that's a good thing. Others, usually it's the other way around. You have institutional players getting first access to something, and then retailers are allowed in the financial space, at least. So it's good to see the tables turned out here now.
Yeah, and kind of continuing on that wavelength of the difference between retail interest and institutional interest. I want to kind of zoom out a bit because we focused. I asked you specific questions about India, but what do you think about these new central bank digital currencies? A lot of different countries around India, places like China, and even I guess Russia, not really close, but around that other region of the world, we've seen a lot of interest with central bank digital currencies. How do you think people in that part of the world will react? Because I've seen with a lot of Asian countries, even in Korea, they're more receptive to these large changes when we're talking about like at the central bank level changing your currency or getting used to it at that level, because it's very intuitive to them in terms of they use WeChat and integrating currencies in there. I'm wondering, I've seen a lot of developments in India as well with things like Paytm, and I've seen a couple of other ideas. Like, how close do you think we are in that region of what you've seen in kind of pushing that cashless society, or continuing to push, using no cash exponential growth? Because one thing that's interesting is in places like the US and other more developed countries, we still use cash a lot, and we don't have anything equivalent to an all-encompassing app that's as digitally native. It's so fragmented. Like Facebook tried, and they are trying to do a lot of initiatives in India, but yeah, just wondering, what do you think from a zoomed out perspective of like how people will react to these changes? Do you think it's different depending on the region?
See, I think at least if you look at CBDCs in general, when I look at them, I can just think of mass adoption, because the way people will understand what cryptocurrencies are or what digital tokens are, these CBDCs can expedite that first experience of using something that's digitally, a token, compared to previously where you had to rely on a third-party server, and that's when you really send money in, for example, PayPal, all you're doing is it's a three-party system. Whereas once you have a CBDC, I'm guessing that you will be able to send it peer-to-peer from you to your friend without any other third party in between. So when people experience that and they realize that this is just like cash in the offline world, I can use this online, directly sending it to a friend. I think that's going to lead to a lot of understanding of cryptocurrencies, and then people will move on from there, hopefully, to the other decentralized ecosystems from CBDCs. But I think it's a great first access point for people to understand crypto. Now, when you think about CBDC in India, at least digitally, people have been very receptive to, like, for example, we have something called as UPI, which is where you can instantly send money. It does not matter what bank you have an account on, you can send money instantly to anyone in the country. And that adoption has skyrocketed. It's growing at a tremendous pace today, the whole UPI ecosystem. And I think, if our bank introduces CBDCs, I think you're going to see at least 100 million plus people understanding what cryptocurrencies are. So that would be a great time to celebrate. I've heard about there being research done by the central bank on CBDCs in India, but it's still very early stages. I don't think we are at an advanced level right now in comparison to China or the other countries. But India, you cannot say. They can expedite any time, and we'll catch up. If other countries are on the verge of launching, I believe our central bank will probably expedite the whole process.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. I think in places like India, they are getting more digitally receptive, so that these new changes aren't too crazy, and they're sort of more used to it. And I think it's interesting and ironic in a lot of cases where in the first world countries, it is big changes when you tell people that, the government is trying to use crypto here, or even for us recently, we're trying to give out these remuneration or amounts, to keep everything going during the pandemic. The government tried to do it using cryptocurrency wallets, like it was in an official document, but it never happened. But even that little amount got people talking a lot. Okay, to kind of end things off, can you talk about if you know the market, the total addressable market in India, and what that might mean to the entire blockchain ecosystem as a whole? Because when you're talking about specific things, like I know Reliance Geo has some plans to build the biggest and largest blockchain network in the entire world. And when you look at these populations in, let's say, China or India, it's just you have different opportunities because of the market size. So as that keeps on building, there's nowhere else in the world where you have this many people connected, right? So to kind of end things off, can you talk about what are some future opportunities that you're seeing? Like, where do you think we'll be in the next year and the next 5 years? You can answer this as just in general, or where do you think WazirX, the impact you guys are going to have in a couple of years as you grow?
See, I think if you look at the number of people in India today who understand crypto or are involved in crypto, it's in the 5 to 7 million range right now. So 5 to 7 million people who have some exposure to crypto. And I see that we can easily 10x this in the next 2 to 3 years, I guess, and maybe reach 100 million people in 3 to 5 years. I think the biggest barrier, like I said, is some regulatory clarity. And I'm not talking about regulation. I'm just talking about clarity, where if the government was to just come out with some statement saying, you're free to experiment, you're free to test it out, I think that would be one of those, points where there would be a mass adoption of cryptocurrencies in the country in different ways. But even if we go at a easy pace, I think going from 5 to 50 million in 3 years is definitely doable in the country. The online ecosystem in India is huge. There are at least 400, 500 million active internet users in the country, and it's growing rapidly. So expecting 10 to 20% of them to have some exposure to crypto in the next 3 to 5 years, I think that's still I would say a conservative estimate that I'm giving right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's possible. I mean, that's a very low penetration amount when you're comparing it to just the amount of people that you said that are connected online, and even if you get specific, the amount of people that are using crypto. The last thing to end things off, because we're doing this conference, we have about 30 days to go until the end of the year. What was your most favorite moment of this year, and just being involved in the crypto space, or something that amazed you the most just throughout this whole year? Because this year has been interesting for sure. It's certainly propelled and given some exponential rise to not just adoption. You can even talk about price impact just because of the whole virtual situation. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But yeah, what's your favorite moment you want to recap from this year?
I think there's been a lot of favorite moments this year, but if the first would be, which has helped India tremendously, is the whole Supreme Court of India lifting the banking ban that we had in place. I think that's like the at the top of the list, the best moment of 2020. The other is obviously the Bitcoin prices going up to where they are today. I think that's the other highlight, the recent highlight. And the third one would be news about institutional adoption increasing globally in crypto. I think that's a great sign of maturity in the ecosystem, because usually you see institutional players like to be in mature ecosystems. So I think that's a good thing. I have hundreds of good things for 2020 that have happened, but I think these are my top three highlights. I think have helped crypto in the right direction.
Okay, I'll take those top three, and I think that's a great way to end things off. Thank you, Nischal Shetty, CEO of WazirX, for being with me here today. And everyone, I'm Roshan Mirajkar. I'm your host. Tune back into REIMAGINE 2020 V5. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.